Three sinister and spine-chilling night drive stories that will expose unexplained terrors. Rachel's heart raced as she pulled out of the diner's empty parking lot, the neon flicker barely lighting up the cracked pavement. Another long shift had drained her, and the worry of bills piled high pressed on her chest like a heavy weight. The streets of Maplewood were deserted, shadows of old storefronts looming under the faint glow of streetlights. Each rustle of leaves sent shivers down her spine, as if the night itself was watching, waiting. Driving felt surreal, a choreographed dance of fear and fatigue that left her mind swimming in dread. What if I can't make it home? She thought, glancing at the back seat where her two young children sat, blissfully unaware. Then, suddenly a figure emerged from the shadows, waving frantically. Rachel's gut twisted, screaming for her to run, to push the pedal to the metal and escape whatever horror lay in wait. But something halted her. Instead, she pulled over. It was a teenager, drenched in sweat, eyes wide with terror. He jumped into her car, gasping, "Someone's chasing me." The weight of her maternal instinct compelled her to act, so she locked the doors with trembling fingers, pulling her kids closer. "Calm down. Just breathe," she murmured, though her own heart thundered like a warning drum. The boy spilled out a chilling story. He'd witnessed a murder, a local businessman, revered by the town, lying dead in a pool of his own darkness. Rachel's skin prickled with a sense of impending doom as she felt the air grow heavy and thick like a suffocating fog. Adrenaline coursed through her as they raced down the dark, winding road, headlights flashing against the cluster of opaque trees. But something followed them, a car, dark like the night, creeping closer. Panic clawed at Rachel's throat as she reached for her phone, desperate for help. But it flickered, then died, extinguished like a candle in a storm. A jolt of fear gripped her, tightening her chest. She remembered those urban legends, the ones about monsters in the night, and now they felt alarmingly real. "Just stay calm," she whispered to her kids, though the words felt hollow, empty like the street outside. She glanced back. The pursuing headlights loomed larger, more menacing. Her grip on the steering wheel tightened, knuckles white as her thoughts spiraled. What if she wasn't just saving the boy? What if he was drawing them into a trap? Then the ultimate betrayal shattered her fleeting sense of safety. The boy turned, fear swirling in his eyes. "It's someone you know, someone from your street," he stammered. The air turned to ice as dread seeped into her bones. Doubts simmered, casting shadows over her instincts that she had always trusted. Just as she thought they had lost them, the screech of tires pierced through the silence. Headlights flooded over them, and her heart raced, claws of terror digging in deeper. At the overpass, the flickering streetlight illuminated the truth that unraveled the web of trust woven in the community. It was a split-second decision: fight or flee. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The headlights bore down on them, a monstrous entity devouring the night. Rachel's heart pounded, terror running hot through her veins. Her children stared wide-eyed, their innocence clashing with the sinister reality bearing down. The streets now felt alive, twisted by betrayal. Each familiar face turned into a ghostly presence. Who could she trust when every shred of safety dissolved into darkness? The decision felt impossible, and the road ahead loomed like a gaping mouth ready to swallow them whole. The moment hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Rachel's instincts screamed at her to flee, to take a sharp turn, to hit the gas and escape. But the boy's terrified eyes drilled into her soul. Her thoughts raced. This was not just about her. She was carrying her children, their lives hanging in the balance with each decision she made. She steered the car to the right, heart hammering as the pursuing headlights veered to, an unyielding predator watching its prey. The shadows stretched and twisted around them, playing tricks on her mind. Every corner they turned felt like a trap, each street a dead end steeped in dread. The teenage boy twisted in his seat, looking back frequently, his breath quickening. "They're not far behind," he gasped, and Rachel could feel the panic seeping into her body, chilling her like a cold wind. Ahead, a few hundred yards, she spied an abandoned gas station. The flickering neon sign flickered like a heartbeat, alive yet on the verge of death. It might be a sanctuary or the worst mistake she could make, but they had to do something. Rachel's mind whirred through possibilities, weighing the risks as she calculated her next move. "Get ready to run," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes darted to the back seat, catching a glimpse of her children clutching each other, faces pale, eyes wide. They didn't understand the horror chasing them, but they sensed it. Their silence spoke volumes, more haunting than any scream. The moment she pulled into the gas station, Rachel's heart leaped into her throat. The darkness seemed deeper, shadows wrapping around every surface. There were no cars, no sign of life. The eerie stillness felt wrong, unnatural, like stepping onto a stage devoid of an audience, a play abandoned mid-act. As they came to a halt, the sound of crunching gravel echoed, a reminder of their sudden vulnerability. "Stay here," she ordered, her voice tense as she prepared to get out. Scrambling to release her seatbelt, her fingers trembled. She glanced over at the boy. "Can you stay with them?" He nodded, fear still wide in his eyes, clearly terrified yet unable to deny the reality of their situation. Rachel took a deep breath, trying to quell the storm of anxiety swirling inside her. She stepped out, the cool night air biting at her skin. Cold pinpricks formed along her arms, and the engine's soft hum faded, replaced by an overwhelming silence punctuated only by the rustling leaves. In the shadows, something felt wrong. Rachel moved toward the darkened facade of the gas station, the glass doors reflecting fragments of her own terrified expression. She pressed against the wall, listening. Something scuttled near the back, an unsettling skittering that made her blood run cold. She resisted the urge to scream. Suddenly, a rustle came from the bushes behind her, the headlights. They were close again. Dread pooled in her stomach as she turned quickly to dive back into her car, but it wasn't he there. It was gone. In its place stood a tall figure, cloaked in shadows, face obscured, yet unmistakably familiar. An electric shock jolted through her veins, a visceral recognition that struck her deep in the pit of her stomach. The figure stepped closer, their outlines sharpening in the dim light. The boy shouted something from the car, a warning, but Rachel couldn't register the words. Instead, confusion mixed with dread. "Why? What are you doing here?" And then it dawned on her, what if the boy was right? What if fear had dulled her senses so much she'd been blind to the monsters within her own world? The figure grinned, but it was not the smile of someone familiar. It was something darker, predatory. Rachel's breath hitched as realization crashed over her like a wave. It can't be you, it can't. But the winds carried whispers of the truth that she could never have imagined. As the figure took another step forward, Rachel stumbled backward, the gas station becoming a chilling nightmare. Panic surged as she clawed at her phone for hope. In that moment, she felt utterly lost, isolated in a web of horrors closing in. "Mom!" The scream of her children ripped through the silence, blending terror with her freezing fear. But all she could do was stare at the figure, mouth agape, heart racing. What had she brought upon them all? A muffled laugh echoed around her, every shadow closing in and everything forced to face the reality that followed. And as Rachel stood, trembling in the darkness, the unsettling truth wormed its way into her thoughts. Was this what being hunted felt like? Now, she had to decide. Would she stand and fight, or would she run again, deeper into the shadows? Rachel's mind raced, teetering at the edge of utter chaos. The figure loomed closer, and every instinct screamed at her to retreat. She stumbled backward, her spine hitting the cold metal of the gas station. Panic clawed at her throat. "Mom, get away from it." The boy's voice sliced through her haze. In the distance, the headlights still glared, undeterred. Whatever was out there wasn't he just chasing them. It was part of this nightmare. "Stop!" Rachel yelled, heart pounding. "Just stay back." She hated that she had put them in this position. The shadow didn't just look familiar. It felt like a memory clawing its way back into the present, a specter from the past she thought she had buried. The darkened figure paused, tilting its head slightly, as if to gauge her reaction. Was it truly a friendly face twisted into something monstrous, or had her perceptions warped under fear? A whisper of recognition tugged at her deeper, still it felt like regret, blame, loss. With her back against the wall, Rachel forced herself to ground. She stole a quick glance towards her children. Their little faces were now twisted in fear. Helplessness loomed like a shadow over them. "Please, just hold on," she muttered, drawing strength from their terrified little eyes. Her phone blank screen, no signal. The isolation smothered her like a fog. The figure took another step, closer now. The air grew heavy with an unyielding tension. "Rachel," it whispered her name, the voice soft yet laced with malice. "Why run from me? You're not alone anymore." Her legs felt like lead as she recalled the lingering promises made long ago, those which now twisted into this sickening reality. "Stay away," she shouted, unsure if she was yelling at the figure or herself. It chuckled, low and menacing. "You can't escape me. I'm part of you." Rachel felt ice envelop her veins. No, it couldn't be. She had buried every ounce of that past deep within herself. Yet, the tears in her eyes betrayed the raw truth. Would fleeing really save them? Or was the darkness simply spreading around the edges of her mind, wrapping its tendrils around her heart? Suddenly, rustling to her left, the bushes rustled again, shadows moving. Rachel's gaze darted as adrenaline surged. "Get inside," she screamed, urgency bleeding into her words. She pushed the children toward the open doors of the car, while keeping her eyes glued to the looming specter. As the kids clambered in, she felt determination rise. They wouldn't go down without a fight. "I won't let you take them," she spat, clenching her fists, ready to confront whatever horror awaited her. The figure stepped forward, and Rachel realized it wasn't just her past chasing her. It was the fear of losing everything she loved. But even as she prepared to stand her ground, new shadows began to emerge, spilling out from behind the gas station's old pumps. They weren't human. They slithered and twisted, like dark reflections of her own dread. "Rachel," the specter's voice lilted dangerously, tinged with delight. "Don't you see? It's not just you anymore." The shadows began to close in, hungry for her fear. Clenching her jaw, she realized that running was not an option anymore. But neither was fighting back alone. And just then, an ominous sound filled the air, a chilling laugh, darker and crueler than ever before. It swirled around her, drowning her in the realization that they were not chasing her. They were anticipating it. "Follow the shadows, Rachel," the figure urged softly, an insidious delight wrapping around those words. "You can't hide forever." In desperation, Rachel swung back toward her children, who were wide-eyed and afraid. "We need a plan," she shouted over the advancing darkness, feeling the weight of their reliance pressing on her shoulders. But the shadows whispered sweet nothings in her ear, promising safety and surrender. "Give in, let us in. Hold on. Don't listen." Rachel gripped the door, willing herself to fight back against the heavy tide of despair. But would they listen to her? Or would they succumb to the beckoning whispers of the past? The darkness loomed closer, and Rachel stood on the precipice of a decision, one that could either destroy them all or lead them to a flicker of hope hidden within the night. What horrors awaited them if she chose to confront it? Could escape still be possible, or was it too late for any of them? She took a deep breath, her heart thumping like war drums, as she felt the futility clawing at her. Was this the moment that would break them all? And with that question lingering in the air, Rachel clutched at her children's hands, bracing for the storm ahead. The shadows pressed in, thick and suffocating, wrapping around Rachel like barbed wire. Each breath felt harder to take, the air heavy with dread. Her heart raced, and a cold sweat crept down the nape of her neck. The darkness seemed alive, pulsing with an insatiable hunger. "Mom." The boy's voice trembled, breaking through the haze. His small hand clutched Rachel's tightly, anchoring her to reality. She squeezed back, desperately trying to convey strength. "Look at me," she said, forcing the words out. "We're getting out of this." The figure at the edge of the gas station's light flickered. It wasn't just a shape in the dark. It was a memory come to life. Unwanted, uninvited. She could feel its weight, a phantom of her guilt looming before her. "Stay inside the car," she commanded, her heart in her throat. "Don't leave us." The girl whimpered. Each whimper pierced Rachel's heart like a knife, but she couldn't let the terror show. She had to be the one who faced this. "Stay put," Rachel repeated, steeling herself. She stepped away from the car, every instinct screaming at her to turn back, to run. The cold metal of the car shimmered behind her, an unwilling guardian for her children against the encroaching horror. The specter took another step closer, revealing a face that rippled with familiarity. It twisted into something grotesque, a version of someone she used to know, yet distorted by darkness. Rachel, it cooed, the voice dripping with sweet poison. Why be afraid? We are bound by blood and by choice. Shut up, she yelled, cutting through the sound. The shadows at the base of the figure began to crawl, slithering toward her children like serpents hungry for flesh. The laughter echoed again, a bone-chilling sound that froze the blood in her veins. It twisted into 1,000 different tones, mocking her, inviting her to succumb. Just give in, Rachel. This is where you belong. Let the fear guide you. No. She didn't recognize her own voice, raw and desperate. She needed to fight. She needed to protect her children. But how? The shadows crawled closer, and fear started spilling into reality, threatening to seep through her resolve. But then, from behind the gas station, a flicker of light danced an ember among darkness. A flicker of hope? Without thinking, Rachel darted toward it despite the dread pressing against her like a weight that sought to crush her spirit. The specter's laughter turned sharp, slicing the air with an icy edge. Run, Rachel. You'll never escape your fate. But she didn't hear it. All her focus was on the light, a chance, an escape. The children's frightened faces burned in her mind as she felt their fears surge within her, igniting a fire of determination. She had to reach that light. Then, from behind her, a scream shattered the night. Rachel spun around, dread pooling in her stomach as she saw one of the shadows reach into the car. No, she shouted, racing back. Mom, help. The boy's panicked voice sent adrenaline coursing through Rachel's veins. She leaped towards the car, every muscle in her body screaming in protest. Her heart raced as she grabbed the door, yanking it open as the shadow twisted toward her. A sickening weight settled over her heart. Stay away from them, she cried. In that moment of raw desperation, she thrust herself into the fray, ready to shield her children whatever it cost. But could she fight a darkness that was born from her own fears? As the shadow reached for her, Rachel felt time freeze. Would she succumb to the darkness within? Or could she turn the tide? What would be the cost of their survival? With uncertainty hanging in the air, she prepared to face the abyss, knowing that whatever lay ahead could obliterate everything she loved. What was she willing to sacrifice? As the darkness swirled around them, Rachel gathered every ounce of will she had left, ready to confront not just the shadows, but the fears that made her so unknowingly vulnerable. And just as she stepped forward, another laugh echoed, a voice that wasn't the specter's, but a different, deeper shadow. Her heart dropped as questions flooded back. Who else was lurking out there? What other horrors awaited them? Because the night was just beginning, and the true terror was about to reveal itself. Rachel's heart hammered in her chest, each beat a reminder of the panic surging through her. The shadow that towered before her, an embodiment of dread, paused, as if the sudden interruption from behind had caught its attention. It turned slowly, giving her a fleeting moment to breathe, to think. But what lay behind her wasn't salvation. It was another horror waiting to unfold. Mom, hurry. The girl's voice quivered, pure desperation cutting through the thick night. Rachel's gut twisted at the sight of her children, wide-eyed and trembling, the very light of the gas station flickering above them like a dying star. She clenched her fists, summoning every ounce of strength to face the impending darkness. The other voice echoed again, deeper and more sinister. Rachel, come to me. It wrapped around her, curling into her ears like smoke, paralyzing and seductive. She turned slowly to face the source. It was a figure obscured by shadows, but its form whispered familiarity, a ghost from her past that made her stomach churn. No, it can't be, she muttered, dread clawing at her throat. Was that really him? The pain of loss surged anew, intermingling with rage and fear. This was not a reunion. This was a trap laced with the memories she tried to bury. Leave us alone, Rachel screamed, stepping forward again. The shadow her children faced shifted, a grotesque parody of comfort. You can't protect them from the truth, it hissed, its voice slithering into her thoughts, unraveling every thread she'd woven to shield herself. Panic rippled through Rachel. The warmth of the gas station light felt so far away, much like the comforting embrace of her memories now twisted into nightmares. She needed to break this hold, to sever the connection that threatened to consume them. "Mom." The boy's voice surged with urgency. In the corner of her eye, the shadow, sleek and longing, reached into the car, trying to pull her children into the abyss. Rage erupted in Rachel, a thunderclap awakening her determination. "Get in the car," she shouted, desperation fueling her command, galvanizing the children. They stumbled to obey, urgency pushing them despite their horror. As she turned back, the specter lunged towards her, a swift, dark dart filled with malice. "I won't let you take them," she cried, her voice trembling but resolute. Rachel launched herself towards the shadow, fists clenched. In her mind's eye, she saw the flicker of light again, sparking hope, not merely a path to escape, but a force of will. The shadows lunged. She felt their icy breath grazing her skin, chilling her bones. Yet, at that moment, action propelled her. Rachel focused on her children behind her, the scent of their fear mingling with the acrid smoke of despair. She had to be their shield. Suddenly, with an explosive pop, the last glimmer of light from the gas station flickered out, plunging them all into utter darkness. The world around her twisted into a cacophony of screams and shadows. "Mom, where are you?" the boy shouted, panic washing over him, echoing in the void. Rachel swallowed hard, extending her hands, trying to feel for them in the thick blackness. "In here," she called back, and as if answering, the malevolent laughter returned. It filled the air like poison, echoing around them. "You can't fight what's inside you, Rachel. It's only the beginning." That voice, familiar yet foreign, zapped her with icy realization. This terror was not merely an external threat. It stemmed from her own past, from the choices she made, the sacrifices she feared might haunt her still. The shadows danced, an eternal night swirling with her internal chaos. "Silence!" she screamed, drawing from primal instinct, drowning out the torment. Fear twisted in her stomach, but she couldn't let it overtake her. She had to break free, not just for herself, but for her children. Rachel took a deep breath, tuning out the laughter, focusing on the whisper of hope alongside the flicker of her children's presence. "I choose light," she shouted, desperately wrestling against the overwhelming despair. But as the surrounding blackness shifted and transformed, the darkness seemed to laugh back, a cruel sound reverberating in the gloom. "You think you can escape? The real battle lies ahead." What would it take to confront this truth? To break free from shadows alive not just in the outside world, but those within? And just as she steadied herself, the chilling laughter cut off abruptly, replaced by a silent weight that hung heavy in the air, foreboding. Where would the next step lead them? Would they find light again? Or was darkness lurking just ahead, waiting for the chance to consume them all? Rachel's breath hitched as the laughter faded, replaced by a suffocating silence that thickened the air. She felt her heart thump in her chest, each beat a frantic reminder of their peril. The complete absence of light was disorienting, yet she could sense the shadows shifting, swirling around her and her children. "Hold on to my voice," she urged, her words trembling but fierce. If she could anchor them here, amidst the chaos, she could lead them through the darkness. She reached out, but all she grasped was the cold weight of nothingness. "Mom," her daughter's voice wavered, tiny and frail against the oppressive quiet. "I can't see you, I'm scared." A chill skittered down Rachel's spine. "I'm right here. Focus on my voice. We need to get back to the car." She turned, trying to sense where the vehicle lay, dreading what awaited them in that direction. "Don't leave us," her son shouted, panic thick in his voice. "I won't," she promised, but doubt gnawed at her. The shadows felt alive, stirring with hunger, taunting her. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet to abandon the children was not an option. "Max, Lily," she called, the names hanging in the air like a desperate mantra. "Where are you?" The void swallowed her words, the darkness mocking her pleas. Another heartbeat passed, and the shadows began to close in tighter, claws of fear digging deeper into her psyche. Then she heard it, a low, guttural growl, echoing from the depths of the dark. It was a sound that vibrated through her bones, sending icy terror coursing through her veins. The growl morphed into whispers, dreadful secrets she wished to forget. Why do you fight, Rachel? It was the same voice from before, smooth and lethal like silk wrapped around a dagger. This is where you belong, lost, alone, consumed by regret. No, she shouted, gathering her courage. I will not succumb. With each word, she felt a flicker of strength ignite within her. The shadows hesitated, momentarily retreating from her defiance. Suddenly, a sharp pull at her waist. Max had grabbed her shirt, yanking her back. Mom, it's getting closer. Her heart sank as the air grew heavier, suffocating almost. We need to move, Rachel shouted, shoving the instinct to panic deep down. She turned, thrusting her arm forward, feeling through the darkness, praying the car was not too far away. Keep your eyes closed, Rachel urged, pulling Max and Lily along. Every step felt wrong, like walking through a monstrous mouth. Sounds of rustling grew louder, close now, almost breathing against her neck. Then came the snatch of fingers against her arm. Rachel gasped and stumbled back, her heart racing. Was it one of her children, or had the shadows come for her? Max. Lily? She shouted, her words cracking. The dark growl thrummed again, closer this time. Mom. Lily's voice shrilled, and Rachel felt both the adrenaline surge and dread wash over her. She could almost see an outline now, a faint shimmer in the thick black, something silver glinting faintly in the void the car. Almost there, she chanted, shoving through terror to reach what felt like hope. She lunged forward, grasping what she hoped was the car door. Her fingers found the handle, slick and cool. But as the door swung open, a chorus of chilling voices echoed around them, each one calling her name, weaving memories of sorrow and regret. Rachel, she slammed the door shut, locking it against the voices. With shaking hands, she fumbled for the keys. The laughter seeped back through the seams of her thoughts, a continuous loop of taunts, reminding her of the darkness she thought she had buried long ago. Mom, please. Max's plea was desperate now. We need to go. Now. She turned the key, her breath held tight. The engine roared reluctantly to life, the noise cutting through the suffocating darkness. Flicking the headlights, the beams sliced through the blackness, revealing the twisted shapes lurking just beyond the reach of light. What she saw froze her blood. Figures, half-formed apparitions, reaching for the warmth of the car, their eyes hollow voids filled with despair. They widened as Rachel's heart raced, recognizing fear and lost souls trapped in shadows. Then one figure stepped forward, emerging from the gloom, an all-too-familiar face twisted in torment. You can't escape me, Rachel. I'm always here. Her pulse pounded in her ears as she slammed the car into reverse, desperate to get away, terrified to look back. But that was the thing about darkness, about what they were up against. It hid the truths she needed to confront, the very truths that haunted her. So where would this dark road lead them? Would they uncover the light to guide them home, or were they spiraling deeper into their own nightmares? Rachel slammed the car into reverse, her heart racing faster than she could process. The figure's face, twisted with pain, lingered in her mind, suffocating her with memories she preferred to forget. Her hands shook on the steering wheel as she glanced at Max and Lily, their faces ghostly pale in the dim light. Are we safe now, Mom? Max whispered, his voice barely above a trembling breath. Just stay close, Rachel managed to say, her heart feeling as though it were about to burst from her chest. The car moved backward, the headlights cutting through the shadows. But the darkness seemed thicker, closing in around them like a thick fog. It felt alive, swirling and writhing, almost as if it were a creature that wanted to devour them whole. As Rachel shifted the car into drive, she heard the whispers again, slithering through the air like serpents. They slunk around her, beckoning her back into the gloom. You can't outrun your past. Rachel, you can't escape. Shut up. Rachel screamed, her voice cracking under the weight of her fear. Just shut up. She pressed harder on the gas pedal, the engine growling angrily, as if it too were afraid of what lurked just behind the headlights. The landscape blurred past them, dark shapes of trees morphing into twisted figures as she tore down the road. But the farther they fled, the more the shadows followed. They seemed to cling to the car, scratching at the windows, murmuring in voices that synced with the rapid thrum of her heart. Lily clutched her doll, its faded fabric soaked with her small, trembling hands. Mom, they want you, she whimpered, eyes wide with terror. "Don't look, sweetheart," Rachel shouted, gripping the wheel. Out of sheer instinct, she leaned lower, as if trying to shield them from whatever awaited them in the rearview mirror. But she couldn't help it. She glanced back. There it was again, the familiar figure, floating closer with each heartbeat. Its eyes were wide, glistening with sorrow and accusation, as if all the wrongs she had buried were being dragged back into the light. And then she heard it, her own voice, echoing through the air, mocking and bitter. "Why didn't you save me, Rachel?" "No," she screamed into the void, shattering the stillness that pressed against her like a vice. "I did what I could." But deep down, guilt twisted in her gut. The truth was a desolate landscape, strewn with choices she would never be able to reclaim. Suddenly, the engine sputtered, jerking violently. Rachel's heart sank into her stomach. No, no, no. Not now. The headlights flickered ominously, illuminating the road ahead intermittently. "Mom," Max shouted, his eyes wide with panic. "What is happening?" "I don't know," Rachel cried, fighting against the steering wheel as the cursed whispers grew louder, filling the car with a thick layer of dread. "We have to keep going." The car lurched. The weight of despair felt heavier, pulling them down. With a gasp, she pulled the wheel hard, veering down a side road, the gravel crunching violently under the tires. Instinct took over, pushing her forward, forcing them deeper into the choking darkness. "What if it's a trap?" Lily's soft voice cut through the terror, filled with an innocent clarity that made Rachel's heart ache. "It has to be better than this," Rachel said through gritted teeth, trying to reassure herself as much as her children. But the shadows danced around them, growing darker and colder, clutching at the edges of the car like desperate hands searching for warmth. Just ahead, Rachel spotted a flicker of light, a flicker that seemed to pulse with life. Hope surged for just a moment, but another howl of despair rose from the depths of the darkness. Teeth gritted, she pressed on, eager to reach that glimmer. But as they drew closer, shadows formed in front of the beam, blocking their path. Then the familiar face appeared again, twisting into a grotesque laugh. "Rachel, it's time to face what you've done." The ground beneath them quaked, sending a jolt through the car. Rachel tightened her grip, but the car's shaking grew more severe, threatening to toss them into the consuming blackness. She turned to her children, fear etched in Max's eyes and trepidation knitting Lily's brow. "We're almost there," she said, though even she didn't believe it. Then the laughter morphed back into that low growl they had heard before, rising and falling like a tidal wave preparing to crash over them. Was it a warning? A promise of their fate? As the shadows surged forward, Rachel only had one thought. They had to escape this nightmare, or they would be swallowed whole. But what awaited them when they broke through? The light was closer now, but at what cost? Walking into it might open doors best left closed. Mom, Max's voice faltered. "Hold on." Rachel gasped, facing the uncertain light ahead. Would it save them or lead them into uncharted horror? Then, just as they could see the outline of hope, the world around them shifted. What awaited them on the other side of that light? Would it lift the shadows, or was it a new nightmare lurking just out of sight? The moment the car broke through the fringe of darkness into the light, everything shifted. The blinding brightness enveloped them, a radiant glow where shadows had once ruled. Rachel blinked against the glare, heart hammering. As her eyes adjusted, the world around them transformed into a sprawling meadow, vibrant and surreal under a luminous sky. But perfect beauty felt wrong. It was a sickening contrast to the dread that had clung to them like oil. The car sputtered, then fell silent, leaving only the sound of their trembling breaths. "Mom," Max ventured, his voice small and fragile. "Where are we?" I don't know," Rachel replied, her voice barely above a whisper, feeling the air tighten around them. The meadow stretched endlessly, wildflowers bending in a breeze that felt like a ghost's caress. They were alone, yet the absence of shadows left her feeling even more exposed. "Look," Lily pointed, her doll swinging loosely from her grasp. A flicker of movement caught Rachel's attention. Dark shapes flitted at the edges of the meadow, a stark reminder of the night they had fled. She swallowed, willing herself to remain calm. "Stay close," she said, unbuckling her seatbelt. A sense of urgency swept over her despite the ethereal beauty surrounding them. She sensed that this was merely the calm before a storm. As they stepped out of the car, Rachel felt the ground beneath her feet pulse. Each step was heavier than the last, as if a weight dragged at her shoes, pulling her down. The meadow seemed to breathe around them, a living thing, whispering in a language she couldn't comprehend. The whispers had returned, fluttering like moths eager to circle their flame. "Mom." The shadows. Max's voice trembled, eyes wide with fresh terror. Rachel turned, heart stalling. The dark silhouettes were creeping forward, sluggish yet determined, forming an ominous barrier at the edge of the light, like a tide rising to swallow the shore. "What do we do?" he begged, looking to her with desperation. The innocence on his face struck a deep chord, universal and raw. She was his protector, yet she felt more like a coward, trapped in a web of her own making. "Run!" Rachel yelled, adrenaline firing through her veins. They dashed into the meadow, the flowers parting beneath their feet like frightened fish, revealing something darker lurking just beneath roots snaking through the earth, gnarled and sticky, as if the ground fed off the terror surrounding them. As they scrambled farther from the car, the shadows whispered louder, twisting past warnings into accusations, curling around her mind like smoke. "You left me. You abandoned me." "No," Rachel shouted back, her heart heavy with the burden of memories she had fought so hard to escape. She could feel her sanity fraying, the voices weaving through her thoughts, mocking her every choice, every mistake, every regret. Lily tugged at her arm. "Mom, it's getting stronger. We need to hide." Panic bled into her voice, making Rachel's gut twist. "Over there." Rachel pointed to a thicket at the edge of the meadow, instinct driving her. They stumbled toward it, weaving through clumps of flowers, the shadows closing in like a suffocating blanket. Inside the thicket was tight, cold, and damp. The overpowering smell of earth enveloped them. Rachel held both kids close, praying the shadows would pass over them. But they didn't. They pulled outside, forming a writhing mass, as if debating which direction they'd move next. "What do they want?" Max Whisper asked, breath hitching. "Me," Rachel admitted, guilt seeping into her voice. "They want me to face my ghosts." Outside, the whispers morphed into thrumming roars, echoing through the meadow. "You can't escape, you can't hide." Each utterance felt like a jagged knife pressed against her skin. And then a figure broke through, stepping into the dim, shifting light, its face the embodiment of every nightmare Rachel had buried. The resemblance was uncanny, yet twisted with malice. "Rachel," the figure crooned, its voice both familiar and horrifying. "It's time to confront the truth." Rachel's heart screamed in her chest, pounding louder than the whispers. She clung to her children, knowing the next moment could either save them or engulf them entirely. "Mom," they wailed in unison, sensing their mother's fear like a tangible force. Before she could react, the figure lunged forward, and Rachel had only one thought. What would be revealed when she faced the darkness that had haunted her? The shadows closed in, thickening as the light flickered like a dying flame. Would she fight back, or succumb to the horrors lurking just beneath the surface of her own mind? Time stood still as the world shifted again, preparing to reveal the deepest parts of her soul. What awaited her just out of sight? The air around Rachel felt electric as the figure lunged, a distorted version of herself dressed in shadows and spite. The look in its eyes sent a jolt through her chest, a reflection of the remorse she had buried deep. Max and Lily shrieked, a sound that sliced through the tension, but the figure's presence seemed to pull Rachel into a hazy trance. She struggled to stay grounded. Focusing on her children, she caught a glimpse of their frightened faces, and fury bubbled within her. "Stay back," Rachel shouted, voice trembling but filled with a raw determination. The figure paused, as if her words rang with unexpected strength. "Confront your past, Rachel," it whispered, twisting closer, the shadows around it curling like smoke. "You can't protect them if you can't face what's been haunting you." Her pulse raced. The words resonated, echoing dreadful familiarity. Memories flooded her mind, moments of regret, choices that had shattered her family. She needed to think of something else, anything else. "Run," she shouted suddenly, pushing Max and Lily past her. "Go, just go." But they hesitated, eyes wide, searching for their mother's reassurance. They couldn't see what she saw. "Mom," Lily cried, clenching her doll tight against her chest. "Go," Rachel yelled with such force, it shocked even her. The children bolted deeper into the thicket, small and terrified figures swallowed by the gloom. Fear gripped her as they disappeared. What if she lost them? The shadows drew closer, emboldened by her worry. One step at a time, Rachel faced the figure. "You're not real," she shouted. The air around her thickened, intoxicating and oppressive. "Oh, but I am," the shadowy version of herself smirked. "I am every choice you regret, every fear you run from. I'm the consequence of your actions." Rachel's mind swirled, a twisted reflection, feeding on her doubts. She remembered that night, the shattered glass, the scream that echoed through her mind. For the first time, she felt a flicker of resolution. "You don't own me," she said, voice trembling but steady. "I choose who I am. Do you?" The figure laughed, a sound that mingled with the deepening shadows, mocking her assertion. "You're running from your mistakes, Rachel. They'll never let you go." The whispers around her intensified, a cacophony rising in a terrifying crescendo. "You're a coward. You'll never escape." Rachel squeezed her eyes shut, fighting the overwhelming urge to crumble. "I will face you. I will face the truth." She opened her eyes, defiance igniting within her. The figure recoiled, momentarily taken aback, then lunged again, but this time Rachel stood her ground, arms wide. The children were counting on her. "Enough," she screamed, stepping forward. The light flickered, as if the very essence of the meadow held its breath. In a heartbeat, everything changed. Shadows began to dissolve, the whispers fading to soft murmurs as if the meadow itself was listening. But right then, a bone-chilling shriek pierced through the air, causing Rachel to stagger. Max and Lily Mom. Their frantic cries blared from the darkness swallowing their voices. "No." Rachel bolted toward the sound. Panic clawed at her throat, heat flooding through her veins. Racing deeper into the thicket, hands outstretched, she burst through the last of the shadows. What awaited her? Each step felt leaden, sweat slicking her palms. The cries echoed again, but they weren't alone. She wasn't prepared for what she found. A swirling mass loomed in front of her, her children's figures trapped within, their faces twisted in terror. The shadows pulsated, writhing like snakes, reaching for them. "Help! Mom! Please!" Without thinking, Rachel leaped, reaching for her kids. "Hold on. I'm coming." Just as her fingers brushed against their skin, the ground beneath her faltered. A sinkhole opened, and they began to fall, darkness swallowing them whole. As the world tilted, she heard the shadows whisper one last time, chilling her to the bone. "You will never escape the darkness." Would Rachel find a way to fight back and save her children? Or would they all be consumed by the very nightmares she tried to escape? The answer loomed like a storm just out of reach. The darkness closed in like a vice, swirling around them as Rachel clawed at the air, desperately trying to bridge the gap between salvation and despair. Time slowed, stretching into infinite fear as their fingers almost touched, her children's terrified eyes pleading with hers. It was a moment suspended in agony, dread feeding on her heart like a parasite. With a raw scream piercing the suffocating silence, Rachel's resolve ignited. "No," she shouted, a feral strength exploding within her. "I will not lose you." In that crucial instant, with an air thick with the heaviness of surrender and loss, she felt the grip of darkness falter. Instinct kicked in as she thrust herself forward, diving into the shadows with a warrior-esque spirit, transcending fear for the love that anchored her. Hold on," she shouted, and as her fingertips grazed the cool, slick surface of their arms, something magical happened. The shadows recoiled, a wave of their fear churning against her defiance. "Mom." Max's voice rose above the din, filled with a crystalline clarity that resonated in her ears. Together, Rachel rallied, determination slicing through the fog of despair. She felt the pull of her children as she clutched their hands tightly, pulling them from the void that had threatened to devour them. The strength surged within her, solid and unyielding, as if she had tapped into a primal force greater than the darkness. Suddenly, the ground beneath them stabilized, as if the very essence of the meadow began to shift, manifesting a response to their united strength. The shadows, those grotesque embodiments of her past, began to retreat, eyes wide with disbelief. Light began to seep through the cracks in the ominous mass of darkness, radiating warmth. "Now," Rachel urged, laboring against the weight of the shadows. They flew forward, the grip tightening with each inch they gained, raw power buzzing through their skin. With sheer willpower, they broke through the edge of the shadows, tumbling into the vivid meadow light. Rachel gasped, the oppressive grip of despair shattering as they landed safely on soft grass, the bright hues around them bursting with life. But even as relief washed over her, Rachel knew it was not over yet. The specters of her past still lingered, those whispers terrible and seductive. The figure, the distorted echo of herself, loomed at the threshold of their safety, fury etched into its twisted features. "Face me, Rachel," it roared, shadows swirling fiercely around it, hungry for revenge. But Rachel's heart was steadfast. "I will not be defined by my mistakes," she shouted, her voice reverberating with strength. "You don't own me." The ground trembled beneath her feet, the shadows hissing in response. Max and Lily squeezed her hands, grounding her as she stepped forward, determination wrapping around her like a shield. As the figure lunged, intent on dragging her back into its dark embrace, Rachel closed her eyes for a fleeting moment, but opened them to the vision she held dear, the image of her children, innocent and radiant, a future unblemished by fear. It ignited her spirit. She pressed onward, heart blazing. "I choose love. I choose them," she declared defiantly. With a surge of energy, she raised her arms wide, banishing the shadows with dazzling light. It poured forth from her, blinding and radiant. The spectral figure writhed, its form flickering like a flame. Caught in the tempest of truth Rachel grappled to embrace. "Let go." The figure shrieked, but Rachel stood tall, heart racing, grounded by love rather than fear. A deafening silence followed as the shadows dissolved into the ether. Light engulfed everything, wrapping around them. Rachel opened her eyes wide in shock as the familiar warmth washed over her, a tapestry of hope. Turning to her children, she wrapped them in a tight embrace, buoyed by a wave of joy that surged like the dawn. "Mom, we did it!" Max exclaimed, excitement bubbling in his voice, tears of relief painting his cheeks. Lily's laughter rang, pure and melodic. "We're safe." "Yes," Rachel breathed, disbelief tinging her joy. The meadow shimmered, bright, blissful, and alive. They stood together, illuminated in a universe free from shadows, a moment unfettered by the weight of horrors past. As the warmth enveloped them, Rachel felt the lingering echoes of regret fade away. Together, she whispered, finally understanding the power they held as a family bound by love. And as they stepped forward, hand in hand, into the expanse of an open future illuminated by endless possibilities, Rachel knew this was just the beginning. Their journey wouldn't be free of challenges, but they would face them together. Hell had tested her, but here they emerged, unbroken, ready for the bright adventure that lay ahead, a tapestry woven of light, love, and hope. Now, if you're feeling that rush of adrenaline and emotion from this tale, you need to subscribe now to catch every nerve-wracking story we have lined up next. This is the moment to show your love and support. Smash that like button now to keep the algorithm alive and kicking. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Catch every pulse-racing moment on our channel. We promise you won't want to miss what's next.